One of the most common questions that I hear from my students and from other guitar players is how do I get into recording and writing my own music? If I can just play guitar and I don't have any experience on other instruments or with plugins, DAWs, and recording equipment in general, there's this big barrier to jump over. And that's definitely something that I encountered when I first started playing guitar and making music. Luckily, there is a new solution for this by Moises, who are renowned for their stem separation. They've just released AI Studio, which takes the idea of stem separation, flips it on its head. This is stem generation, and it is context-driven, meaning you can record yourself into AI Studio and then use AI Studio to listen to your playing and suggest stems to play along to. So this isn't something like an AI song generator where you just enter in a bunch of text-based prompts and you basically have no control over the process. You have a lot of control here. It really centers instrumentalists and musicians, and we're going to have a play around with it and see what we can come up with on the fly. Let's go. AI Studio is available for all Moises accounts, whether you're on the free, premium, or pro plan. The pro plan will give you access to unlimited generative credits, though. It's just up in the top left. So if you click on AI Studio, you can now come in and start a new project. You can, of course, recall saved projects on here. I'm just going to call this Jam Number 1. So we've got a blank project here, and you do have the option to record directly into AI Studio. You can set the source, the channel, and adjust the input gain along with whether you have monitoring on or off. You can also set the key, the tempo, and the time signature up here. But what I want to do is import a pre-recorded track. I just recorded myself noodling around on a little guitar idea in A minor, and we're going to use the AI auto detect to extract the chords, the tempo, and the key from it. So you can either drag and drop or just select a file from here. So I'm going to import a file really quickly. Here's my track. I'm going to drag it and drop it, and you can see that it's been imported. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit AI auto detect. So this is going to figure out what the tempo is along with the chords. It's like having a very intelligent and effective band member who can immediately recognize the chords and lock in with you. Now, I already knew that I'd recorded this at 85 BPM in the key of A minor, and it has detected that perfectly. Furthermore, it's actually been able to chart out all the chords on here, and this looks totally correct. So once you've got that chord chart in there, you've got the tempo and the key, you can come over here to the right and use the stem generation. Now you've got a bunch of different instruments and styles available. So we've got drums, bass, guitar, and other instruments like keyboards and strings. Let's start out by generating a drum track. You can use AI match so that it can just listen to it and suggest a drum part, but you've also got style presets in here. So you can see alternative, classic rock, an egg shaker, grunge, hip hop, house, jazz. Let's start out by generating a couple of different stems, and you can generate them as a batch in parallel, which I really appreciate. So you don't have to generate one, wait for it, and then generate another. Let's go for soul. I'm going to hit generate stem. Then maybe we'll come up here. We'll use the AI match, generate a stem on that one. Let's do ballad. I always like having a couple of different options in here. And maybe let's go for R&B. So I'll generate those stems. I'll just wait a little bit, and I can just play back while I'm waiting for these to be generated. So here's my little guitar idea. What I'm going to do down here is just tidy this up while I'm waiting. I'm going to mute all the tracks that I'm not waiting for, and we'll just wait for this soul setting to come up on here. Then I can toggle between all of them, pick the part that I like, commit to it, and use that to generate some other stems. So that's what we've got so far for the guitar. Once these come in, we're going to have a listen to soul, the AI match, ballad, and R&B. Let's start out with the soul drums. I like that it immediately gives me two options for each style as well. This is more of a vibe already, this AI match. I love that drum sound as well. Maybe let's toggle between the ballad's nice as well. Same as the R&B drums as well. Let's just have a listen a little bit further. Maybe we'll go back to the AI match because I quite like that. Kind of like that heavy feel with this. It's not something that I would have expected. And you could hear in there how it sort of caught that dynamic change in there. Very interesting. I like it's left a little gap in there. It even sort of got a little ending on there. That's pretty amazing. All right, let's go with that. I'm just going to adjust the level over here. Now, any tracks that aren't muted on here are going to contribute to the next stem that I generate. So you can see I'm using 2 tracks to generate over here. Let's generate some bass on here. Maybe we'll try, again, an AI match bass, and maybe we'll do, let's go for an R&B bass on here again. Let's have a listen to some of these options now. We'll start with the R&B bass. I like this upright bass quite a bit. Different vibe to what I expected. Kind of like the heavier drums with the, you can hear the fingers. Very cool. Right, let's roll with that. Maybe now I'd like some keyboards or some strings on here. So I'm going to go over to others over here. Now there are the presets on here. I could also enter a custom prompt or enter some reference audio as well. Let's try the lo-fi keys preset on there, and I'll also generate a strings preset on here. Again, we just have to have those tracks that we've already generated or recorded manually on here unmuted, and then these prompts will listen to those and suggest something appropriate. That's a bit more like it. And then strings. There we go. This is sounding like a tune now. Let's have a listen to the rest of it as I change the chords. Okay, so for this section, it might be nice to sort of get rid of the strings in there. So what I can do is I can hit edit on here, and we'll select between bar 10 and bar 15 over here. What I'm going to do is generate some silence in there, and have a look at that. It's gotten rid of the strings. I'm happy with that. So I will replace what I had in there. So the strings are going to cut out. Another thing that I could do is regenerate a section, like say this electric piano part in here. I can just highlight it. I can click here and say regenerate. And rather than have to replace the whole track on there, I could go in there and again, I could try something that is a little bit different, or I could try like lo-fi keys, maybe electric piano in that section. So let's try that, and it will give me an alternative to what was played in there before without having to remove the original track. So it's like being able to punch in essentially, and that's very much the theme with all of this. Again, it's context driven. It's like having a very reactive, responsive musician in the room with you. And if you'd said, hey, that was great, I love what you played up to bar 10, maybe just try something a little bit different in there and then go back to what you were doing. That's fairly standard stuff you would do if you're rehearsing, arranging, or writing in there. So let's have a listen to what this has regenerated for me now. You can hear the strings have come back in for this section. So once I'm happy with the stems that I've generated, I can actually come in here and I can go down to the AI mixing over here. So we'll just hit start analysis of 5 tracks, and I'll be able to export these as individual stems if I want, or as a mix, or I can even do things like taking the individual elements of the drum kit and I can stem those out, which is pretty amazing. Furthermore, all of these stems that you generate, the copyright belongs to you. So it's not something like, say, Splice or a sample-based program in there where the sample is generated by somebody else and they own the copyright. The user owns the copyright on all of these. So if you did come up with something that you wanted to release and put out there, then there's Nothing to do. It's already yours. I really appreciate that. I can select my sample rate. I can select whether I want the mix or the mix and the stems along with the style. Furthermore, I can play around with the panning. I can add reverb in here. So let's say this guitar track over here, I want a medium amount of reverb and I want the presence to be normal. The drums, I might want a low amount of reverb on those, a low amount of reverb on the bass guitar. I want the presence to be in the background. Same thing with the strings. I want the presence to be in the background, but I want the reverb absolutely cranked on those. And the keys I will leave normal, but I will put the reverb at medium. Again, I can play around with the panning. I'm going to export it at 48K, and I would like the mix and the stems as well as a WAV file. Let's export it. In this case, I get a zip file to download, and you can see I've got the mix right here. Then I've got all the instrumental stems. So bass, drums, guitar, keys, a send with all the effects on it, and the strings group. So I could drag that into another DAW and mix it if I wanted to. Let's just have a listen to the AI mix. I might actually grab my guitar and have a little jam over this while I listen. This massively lowers the barrier of entry for anybody who's got an instrument or can sing, who wants to start making their own music, who wants to start playing around with recording and arranging. In this case, I'm using the web-based browser on here. I don't need a DAW. I don't need a plugin that can handle drums and another plugin that can handle bass and another bunch of synth plugins on here. If anything, as a simple value proposition, this can replace so much stuff that an average musician or a beginner might be daunted about getting into. Even someone like myself who spends a lot of time recording in here, I can see the value in this as something for a great way to quickly take an idea that I might have and flesh it out. And the main thing that I found with just about any piece of music technology is the thing that I end up using the most and the thing that is the most valuable is whatever lets me work the fastest on here. And again, just being able to open up a web browser or the desktop app on here, I could drag in a pre-recorded idea like I did here. I could play directly into this with my guitar and record it, and then just essentially sit back and get out of guitar player and instrumentalist mode and get into producer or arranger mode and generate these stems in here, get the vibe that I'm happy with. Then I can use this iteratively to generate more stems. I mean, this is going to be super handy for me as someone who teaches a lot of guitar and who makes instructional content here on YouTube to generate backing tracks. If I wanted to, I could start by just entering a chord chart up here. In fact, if we were to do that, I could generate drums, bass, and instruments from that without any extra input, and I can use that to practice. Whether you're someone who just wants to enhance your practice routine or you're somebody who wants to explore writing and recording, I'd highly encourage you to play around with this. You can do all of this with the free account. Of course, if you've already got a premium or a pro account with Moises and you've been using it for their excellent stem separation, you get this included with your membership. There's nothing extra to pay. So I would highly encourage you to go and check that one out and let me know how you like it. For example, if you're on my Discord server, which is linked in the video description, post up some clips of what you generate on there and let me know how it helps you practice, write, and record. If you want to learn more information about this, I will put a link in the video description. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you all on the next one.